Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the last day of Scrutiny Week. I'm incredibly excited for our last day. This is my favourite day, actually, because we invite lots of organisations to come along and really showcase the great stuff that they're doing in their organisation. So I think it's always good to know what others are doing and always share good practice where possible. So for people who don't know me, I'm going to be taking you through sort of the next 2 hours, really, of different organisations coming along to showcase. And my name's Louise Thompson. I'm Head of Business Services at TPAS England. So without further ado, we're going to get started. And I'm really pleased to welcome to the showcase, the first showcase of the morning, Town and Country Housing. And I'm delighted to have with us Sarah, Kevin and Teresa. We're going to talk a little bit about how they do scrutiny in their part of the world. So I'm going to hand over to Sarah first to take you through their presentation.
Okay, thanks Louise, and hi everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Sarah Holden. I'm the Resident Scrutiny Manager at Town and Country Housing, also known as TCH. TCH is part of the Peabody Group, and we have in the region of 10,000 homes throughout Kent and Sussex. Our resident scrutiny function has been going strong since 2014. And the panel are currently undertaking their 10th service review. And since they were established in 2014, 145 recommendations have been implemented at Town and Country to improve services for all residents. So the panel currently has 11 members, 9 tenants and 2 shared owners. And I'm delighted to be joined by 2 of them today, Teresa and Kevin, and they're going to tell you about their current review of the resident voice. So over to you, Teresa and Kevin.
Hi everyone, I'm Teresa.
And I'm Kevin.
I've been a Town and Country resident since 2003. I live in Tunbridge Wells in Kent.
And I've been a shared owner of the Town and Country since June 2015. And I live in Tunbridge, also in Kent.
So, yeah, so we are 2 of now 11 on our panel. There was 10. We've just had a new recruit. Alex, if you're watching, welcome. So we, the panel do in-depth independent reviews for town and their services. And we make recommendations directly to the board to improve any services, also to highlight good practice. But, you know, if there's improvement needs to make, that's our job, really. Right now we're reviewing residents' voice, and as you'll be aware, it's very topical as it features a lot in the social housing white paper, so really interesting. We started our review of the residents' voice at the end of last year. It's a really big subject matter, so we've actually broke it down into 2 phases. So the first phase focused on improving the digital services that they offer and service standards as well. So we, at the end of the review, we made 41 recommendations to the board, and I believe 39 were accepted. So that was really good, very positive. Many of the recommendations were about of the website. We found that there was a lot of information, but it was just hard to find, and it was scattered in various places, and it just wasn't user friendly as it could be. So lots of work will be undertaken in the next few months to improve this. So the board have agreed on that one, so that's really good. Our second stage, which we're just moving into now, we're just actually about to start, is we're starting to examine staff that work for Town and Country Housing Group, how they're recruited, their induction process, how they're trained. And also we're looking at how residents could possibly maybe be involved in the procurement process that goes on in Town and Country Housing Groups. Because I think it's very important for people that work for Town and Country to know who they're working for as a housing association. What is a housing association? What is social housing? And especially involved with the stigma that's attached to it. So Yes, so that's the scrutiny are clear, very clear, and it's important that Town and Country recruits the right staff from the outset. So that's why we believe, you know, us being involved as tenants, as residents, that we could maybe get involved to help that. So we're looking carefully at the application pack that they receive when they're starting, for prospective new staff, and what's included in this pack and how they recruit, particularly around the information that's given about residents. So perhaps they could ask in the interview, you know, why do you want to work for a housing association? What is their understanding of a house association and what it does for their tenants? So, and we also want to find out what their motivation is, you know, and do they want to be part of Town and Country Housing Group for the right reasons? So we're really looking forward to getting our teeth into this next phase of the review, because, yeah, I think it'd be really good and to find out how they work backstage and behind the scenes. So thank you. I'll hand over back to Kevin.
Hello everyone. Yeah, like Teresa, I'm a part of the scrutiny panel at Town and Country Housing Group. I'm a shared owner, but I also work full time. So this is obviously on top of full time work. I work as a technical manager for a large receiving house, touring house theatre. So obviously that keeps busy all sort of hours of the day, but I get to work this around my job. So when lockdown happened back in March last year, that seems like 5 years ago, the meetings obviously moved from in person inside the meeting rooms at the office at Town and Country Housing to online via Zoom, which obviously helped me personally because it means I could jump in and out of meetings sometimes when I'm at work, which is I'm at work right now. So I apologise for the quality of the camera. My work computer is sometimes a bit of a dinosaur some days and it's having a bad day. But it does mean, like this morning, I can just pick up and join in meetings wherever possible because it's on that digital realm. And it's also helping Town and Country Housing by saving money on transport costs. Obviously, Kent's quite a big place and everyone's having to travel from all over Kent. Luckily, Tunbridge Wells is fairly centrally placed, so it's easy for people to get to, but still potentially quite a long way for people to go. So it's made the meetings a lot quicker and more efficient as well, because we're able to stick to the allotted time frames. Obviously, people have got stuff to do and it's outside of their social lives and so on. So yeah, it's been really handy being online. Going digital means the panel has also been able to recruit new members from all over Kent and Sussex. Because it's been easier to go online, it's made it more accessible for residents who are living in further reaches of East Kent, which can be up to about 90 minutes drive from Tunbridge Wells, from where we're based. So it's made it a lot easier for those people. So back to recruitment, induction and training. So our review was on the resident's voice. One of the issues we'll be considering is the subject and, like you were saying, the stigma surrounding social housing. Depending on findings, we may, for example, recommend the inclusion of videos featuring our residents about the issues and the prospective candidates so that people can view those online. We'll also be recommending more emphasis during the new staff induction process and even the possibility of joint training. Basically by this, I mean training that could be open to staff and residents alike in equality and diversity, for example, and that way they can receive the same sort of training and the residents can see the sort of training the staff are going to go through and hopefully make it a more inclusive environment. During the second phase of the review, we're also considering how the residents are involved in the procurement process. So whether the residents are brought in and they sit on the panel for deciding when contracts are going out to certain companies and stuff, and seeing if we can get them involved in these more, which obviously, if the more people know about these processes, the more transparent it makes them, and it's just going to improve everything for the residents. Subject of the stigma could be tackled head on, I guess, in these areas. We'll be starting to address the negative perceptions and emphasis on social housing residents, because they're no different to anyone else. They've got the same problems, the same aspirations in life and so on. So yeah, they're going to be addressing the stigmatism around that word, the social housing. We know that some of these steps may be small and take time to have an impact, but as we've done the panel, it's about improving the services for the residents, and we've already seen the difference we can make with the 9 reviews that we have completed to date. So obviously we're seeing the impact we can have, so it's a great process for us. So yeah, thank you very much for having us on.
Brilliant stuff. I mean, I think it's so important to actually look at scrutiny in terms of the other stuff that it can do, not just the customer facing or the services, that are maybe out there, that we all sort of know about, repairs, that kind of stuff. But the fact you're scrutinising the recruitment service and actually tying that into tackling stigma as well, I think is absolutely fantastic. And I don't really know any others that are doing that at the moment, but if they're not, I think that the signal from yourselves probably is to definitely have a go at that. So what stage are you at the moment then? Are you sort of still fairly, you still got some work to do on it? What sort of stage is your recruitment the recruitment scrutiny at the moment, would you say?
Yeah, it's quite early, Louise. We're just starting now to look at recruitment. So we're expecting hopefully to make recommendations, hopefully this side of Christmas, but if not, early next year. So the panel are just starting to examine, how staff are recruited, look at the recruitment pack, looking at the interview process and the induction process, and also ongoing training for staff like me, while they're employed at Town and Country. So excellent. Early days, but yeah, it's really exciting.
Well, you must promise me now that you'll come back and do a session for us, because I think this is an absolutely fantastic thing for us to be showcasing and the work that you're doing. So great. Yeah, if you would come back once you've got yourself sort of, through the recommendations, we'd love to have you. And brilliant to hear about it this morning. Really, really great stuff. So big thank you to you all for giving up your time today. And thank you for joining Scrutiny Week, and good luck with it. Fingers crossed, and come back and see us.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for listening. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Okay, brilliant to hear there from Town and Country. I'm sure you'll agree, some fantastic work going off. And again, really pleased to see that they're tackling issues around sort of recruitment and stigma and all that agenda, because it's so important, as we know. So we're going to move on. We're going to have our next organisation who are going to showcase what they've been doing around scrutiny. And I'm delighted to welcome Peaks and Plains. And I think we've got Rachel with us this morning. Good morning, Rachel. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good, thank you. A little bit cold with the rain, but
yeah, I know it's definitely, well, it's the 1st of October now, so we're definitely on the road to autumn and winter, aren't we? But hopefully we'll warm up a little bit as we listen to your presentation. I'm sure we will. So yeah, in your own time, when you're ready, over to yourself, Rachel.
Perfect. Well, thank you for inviting me to come along and speak about our latest scrutiny. Am I able to share my screen? It doesn't look like I've got.
Oh, absolutely. We'll make that happen, or Lisa will make that happen. She'll just make you co-host, so you can share it if you can't at the moment.
Perfect. Not a problem. But I'll just start by introducing myself. So I'm Rachel Marsland, and I'm the customer voice manager here at Peaks and Plains. And I make up the customer voice team with my colleague as well. And we look after all resident involvement and that community engagement, but also complaints as well. So we've got quite a varied role as part of the customer voice team.
Yeah, you've definitely got a lot of sort of in your remit then, haven't you, Rachel? Yeah, a lot to go at.
That's it, exactly. It's all good. I'll just share my screen.
Yeah.
So just a little bit about Peaks and Plains first. So Peaks and Plains own and manage around 5,200 homes across East Cheshire and the High Peak. The trust exists to help improve lives by playing a part in addressing local housing needs, with our key priorities being be a great landlord, create great places to live, and be a resilient business. So why did we do scrutiny this way? So we're a new team, so we're only, I think, about a year old now, with a passion for giving our customers a voice and making sure that all their views are heard. And it's been a little while as well since our last scrutiny session. And we wanted to get right back into it with customers. Our challenge group, our engaged customers, were really looking forward to scrutinising an area of the business again. So we've worked with TPAS and Emma previously, and they facilitated our last one, which was around 2 years ago, and it went brilliantly. So we thought it worked last time, so let's reach out again, and it worked amazingly this time as well. And this boot camp style seems to be the most successful to all our customers, because as we know, all of us live very different lifestyles, and sometimes commitment over a long period of time just isn't achievable. And although it's a commitment over 2 days or 4 days, it's a flexible approach, and we can see a real impact, what it makes with those recommendations really quickly into the business as well. So our approach this time was the scrutiny review was selected and scoped by our challenge group, who report directly to our board, and that was based on customer satisfaction, feedback, complaints, so any feedback that we can give to challenge group to decide on that topic. And they decided on planned and responsive repairs at this time, and we also advertised joining the panel to our wider customer base as well, just to ensure that we're getting all the views across our services. And we actually had a customer come on board the scrutiny who is now also a challenge group member, who came from one of our complaints, was really dissatisfied sort of with the service, so had that kind of point of view as well, which, you know, we need all the views to get the best recommendations possible. The review covered the following key elements over 2 days, and we did it on Teams. And so this was back in March, so we were still in pandemic and still getting everybody online, and it was 2 full days. So we went through fact finding, so reviewing all our service standards, policies, procedures, performance information, all of that. So I think one thing that you'll get from me, and I think is really key, is to be organised, know exactly what is needed in this approach, and make sure that everybody, service managers, heads of service, are on board and know exactly the deadlines and when things are needed as well. And then we'd go to the challenge compare section, so examining what other landlords do, benchmarking, sort of identifying any good practice. And then at this point, we would ask the panel, is there any other information that they require? And we'd go back and find that information and share that, so that we can have additional Q&As based on additional information as well. So then we created recommendations, and in my next slide, I'll just go in a little bit further with those. So we'll analyse our findings, making sure we've got recommendations, and create an action plan from them. And then that goes to our challenge group, who will monitor and evaluate the progress of that. So our latest scrutiny, as we say, was on planned and responsive repairs, which, as we all know, is a massive, massive subject, one that most scrutiny panels are keen to do at some point. So following the scrutiny review, we had 10 recommendations following the scrutiny review, and they varied from inspections to further training, to gathering feedback in different ways. So we took those 10 recommendations with our scrutiny panel to the audit committee, where they explained why they decided on the recommendations, our whole process, what they thought of the process, and these were approved by board. So once these have been approved, we developed it into a smart action plan, which is monitored by our challenge group. And this is also part of our performance management meetings internally as well. So as we do with internal audits, it is visible across the trust. So we have key dates that we have to stick to, regular updates on those in the monthly meetings as well, so that we're on track and we know that these are being implemented across the trust. So yeah, the challenge group will also monitor the action plan. So they meet up every 5 weeks. And Michaela Burns, who's our maintenance manager, who looks after the planned and responsive repairs, who took part in the scrutiny, comes along, provides an update, answers any questions, and then we report back to our exec team every 6 months. So I think if anybody's thinking about this approach, it works extremely well for us. It's something that we've literally just finished our second one doing as well. So we've gone on to grounds maintenance using exactly the same format as well, and that's worked exactly the same. As I mentioned before, I think the key is just to be extremely organised and present the information in an accessible and clear way. So I think everybody will know that even if we understand it, it's just making sure that it's clear and customers completely understand what we're providing them, especially if it's a lot of facts and figures. Just need to make sure it's clear. Everybody involved knows exactly what stage we're at and what it's meant and the next steps as well. So what happens once recommendations are created, where does it go then? It's just been really clear that they're not lost, they're not just put in a drawer, they are implemented within the trust. You will see an impact quickly. So our last one was March, went to audit in April, and we're already halfway through implementing most of those recommendations now, which is amazing. And it's just keeping on top of those and making sure that our challenge group know, and also our customers as well. We share it quite widely on our social media and our website as well. So customers are engaged throughout without getting information overload over a long period of time. And I know sort of traditional scrutinies could be from 3 months to 6 months to a year long, providing lots of different information and lots of different time. It's quite a neat and concise way of doing that. And I'd also just encourage anybody to come and speak to me about this approach as well. I'm more than happy to have conversations. Our service managers who have just been through the process, so like I say, we've done planned and responsive repairs, and we've just done grounds maintenance, and they're more than happy to kind of talk to anybody, any managers of a service who are a bit apprehensive about it, aren't too sure what to expect. More than happy to speak to them and welcome them to the approach. The learning and the experience you get from it is quite impactful, really. But that was always a sort of tour of that approach. I'm happy to speak about it if you've got any questions about it.
Fantastic, Rachel. I've got to say, I'm a massive fan of what you've just talked about. You know, it sort of does the things that you want scrutiny to do. You know, it engages people, it has a clear process. I love the fact that it's integrated into an action plan and it's implemented and tracked. So there's so many positives to that. I know we're going to have a lot of people who are interested in finding out more. So again, I'm definitely inviting you back to do a bigger session for us and a longer session, because I think there's a lot of learning from that and people will definitely be interested. So a big thank you, and please pass on, you know, sort of our good wishes to your scrutiny residents as well in terms of the work they're doing, because it's fantastic and brilliant to see. So thank you again, Rachel. Appreciate your time this morning.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me, Louise.
No worries. Thanks, Rachel.
Bye.
Bye. Excellent. So it's really good to have that example very early around doing scrutiny different and having something, you know, that's maybe done in a short period of time. So we'll be looking at that in a bit more detail going forward, I'm sure. But it's time to move on. I told you that we're coming thick and fast this morning. We are delighted to welcome into the scrutiny showcase this morning David, who has come along from Great Places to talk about how they do scrutiny there. And I think he's got Tracy with him as well. So welcome, you two. I hope you are both well. I'm not sure who's going first. Who we're handing over to? To Tracy first. Over to yourself then, Tracy. Thank you.
Hi, thanks very much for inviting us along today, Louise, and also Lisa, who I've been chatting with this morning. So I'll start talking about what I'm here to talk about, because I'm very good at waffling, as most of us are, aren't we? So one of the best practice tips I would give, I'm the coordinator who works with our scrutiny group, and I would say is flexibility. And the importance of keeping an open mind, and in turn we often find that enables you to adapt to new ideas, to approaches, because every scrutiny you find is very, very different. And it also means that you're more open to anything that comes up that you find out during the review, and also means that you're more objective with your views, because you don't have those preconceived ideas. Often when we're chatting, we talk about, oh, this happened to me, or I know somebody that this happened to. And we often say that, you know, you can bring your own experiences to a review. However, what we've got to do is test those experiences to see if they're shared by other people as well. So use that as sort of, you know, an impetus to think about some of the questions that you might want to ask other customers. So Our group at Great Places is called Insight, and we've got 6 members currently at the moment, and we're always looking for new people, so we're always advertising. And also one of the workshops I attended this week was about diversity. So yes, definitely always looking for a diverse audience, but also what resonated with me in this workshop is that, you know, even though you might not have a diverse panel or group of members, what you can do is always be mindful of that diversity and think, well, you know, okay, we're asking about this, how might that differ for somebody else who has, you know, belongs to such a category or has a disability or whatever. So to be mindful of that that diversity, but also majority of our reviews will call upon the customer voice. So we will do customer surveys as well. And we generally find that we profile people, and we generally find that we do have quite a diverse range of feedback from lots of different, you know, people. So the information that we're actually using for our scrutiny reviews is wide ranging and quite diverse as well. So we keep an eye on that. So we've done scrutiny reviews. We've been in place since about 2014. So we're quite established, although we've had members coming along, you know, to bring new ideas to the group. And we started off with something quite straightforward like complaints. But we've also done things like our Great Places response to the pandemic, which doesn't have a procedure for you to have a look at and have a look at the promises. So it was a bit like, whoa, what's this all about? Where do we go with this one? But what we found is not to, or what I chat to the group about is not to be scared about the unknown or something that's not familiar to you, because what scrutiny is about is just having a look at what's actually happening, and then having a look at that and seeing whether that's, you know, has strengths or whether it's something that could be improved on. And you find that out from what the customers are telling you, and you'll all know that anyway, but I find that that's really important to keep in mind. And I always, when we're having discussions, keep reeling the group back in, because sometimes, you know, people get overexcited and go off, and I'm sure Dave will agree with me on that one. But that's good, that's a healthy conversation. But I think what you've got to do is keep your eye on the ball and make sure that what you're actually talking about is going to have benefit to your scrutiny review. So yeah, we've got a mix there. So sometimes you might be looking at things which do have a policy procedure. Other times you might be having a look at something which you're just collecting what people's views are of their experiences, what their aspirations and priorities are, so that you can feed that back to your landlord so that they can influence change in the future. So it's not necessarily always about making change because something's not working. It's about influencing that service to make it relevant to future needs of customers. So I'm just mindful of the time there, and I'm only on page 2.
I know it does fly, doesn't it?
So one more point I would say is that what we do is we have quite a structured framework to work with, but we do have, going back to the flexibility, we do have that flexibility in there. So knowing that you have that framework to work to, when you've got tons of other stuff going on, it helps you stay on track. So at Great Places, we aim to do 3 scrutiny reviews a year. And then we have key dates in there where we're going to feed back to the directors, just to let them know what's going on, what we found out, and then also to the board. And that keeps us on track. Mainly the reviews last between about 8 to 12 weeks. And like I say, that keeps us sort of on track as well. So what I'll do is, it's a real shame. I've got still tons of stuff to say. Can I come back? I'll just pass you over to Dave, because I think it's really important, not that you just hear from me and that you hear from Dave. And I think what Dave's going to talk about, it will complement what I've said anyway. So over to you, Dave.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dave. I'm a retired leaseholder living in Sheffield with a big block of flats called Park Hill, which is quite well known if you live in Sheffield. Yeah, well, firstly, thank you, all the coordinators are here. Yeah, I always think it's a bit like herding cats doing scrutiny, because we're all, we are individuals. It's difficult to arrange us, and I think we're quite well organised at great places. I'm actually a customer that finds the Zoom digital stuff quite difficult, so I represent somebody on a scrutiny group that really likes, has started to enjoy coming back to meeting in person again. It's been quite difficult during, I know that some people have quite liked all this digital stuff. It's meant that they could stay at home and then the quality of life, but not for me particularly. But nevertheless, we have done a couple of reviews successfully during lockdown, and I just want to point out some of maybe the differences or the things that we do that may be different. Firstly, we write our own surveys. So our scrutiny group, we are writing questions. It's not Great Places writing questions. It's us working with Tracy, and we are starting to ask quite difficult questions. So not questions necessarily that provide a comfortable answer, but trying to dig down into what actually customers want and what improvements we might be best to improve. And at the end of the process, if we jump straight to the end, we actually go to board meetings, so that the scrutiny team go to the board meetings. And that's quite interesting because we have developed quite a good relationship with the board, and it's clear that the board really value us. And it's clear actually that the senior management really value us. They literally will come in and say, if you ever have a problem with anything, my door is always open. And I really do believe that they mean that. And they will pop in into the scrutiny sessions as well at times, so we can ask them quite difficult questions. So there's that access there. Now, where am I going with my kind of rant at this point? And the board meetings, actually, because that trust is starting to develop, we're starting to have like a proper conversation in the board meetings where they ask us, what do you really think about this? And we say, well, this, that, and the other, and we're starting to have a conversation there, which is actually quite nice to feel that you're listened to by the board. But I think for me as a scrutiny person, the big question always is what we're engaged in a tick box exercise, which I don't believe it is, but there's always that question, or is it empowering us to make significant changes? For that, as scrutiny, what I really think is important is the question, how do housing associations provide that evidence to scrutiny groups that their implementations have been, the recommendations have been implemented? On our part, what we do is there's a list of basically jobs that are recommendations, and then in 3 months' time we're updated about that. We kind of never let go of that process. So until something's been actually implemented, we're kept informed about the status of that.
They're the action plans, aren't they, Dave? That was what I was going to come on to, but just to let you know, we do. No, Dave, I don't want to steal your thunder. What we do is at the end of a review is work with the head of service to put together an action plan, and then they will have 6 monthly updates until all of the actions are actually implemented. But they also are getting to the point now, the group, because they've developed, is asking, well, so what? Right, okay, you've implemented, how can you tell us that it's made a difference? And we know that it isn't always straightforward to be able to tell what difference it's made, but at least they can have that open and honest conversation. So
Brilliant. Okay, I'm really mindful of time, and again, I'm loath to sort of stop this because there's some great stuff coming out of what you're saying, and David, great to hear from yourself in terms of how you feel valued by the organisation, the great relationships you've got, and also the difference scrutiny is making as well. So thank you to you both for coming along to share that, and again, I am definitely going to have you back so you've got a bit more time to take us through it in a bit more detail. So big thank you to you both. Thanks again for joining us, and look after yourselves and take care. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, yeah, beginning to realise that there's a lot of information, isn't there, that people can share with us about scrutiny, and I think we need to really be running some more workshops, so do look out for them. Myself and Lisa will be busy getting those organised, I'm sure. So next up, once we've got everybody in from our next organisation, I think next up we have got Sovereign. I'm always pleased to see Sovereign. It's always great to have Sovereign along talking to us about the work that they do, because I know they do some tremendous stuff. So I'd like to say a big TPAS England welcome to Paula and to John. I'm sorry to keep you waiting in the waiting room, but it's over to yourselves now to take us through what's happening at Sovereign and your scrutiny experiences.
That's lovely. Thank you very much, Louise. So my name's Paula Grebo, and I'm a resident with Sovereign, and I live in Exeter and down in Devon. And on our scrutiny coordination group, I'm the chair of the group. We have 8 residents, and then we work with a staff team alongside us to do all our scrutiny work. So I'll introduce John, who's just tell you a little bit about himself.
Hello, my name's John. I'm one of the staff team that works alongside Paula and her group, facilitating the scrutiny group. I'm one of 5, but we also facilitate all of our engagement within Sovereign with that number of people. Working from home, obviously, for the last however many months. I know my spare bedroom like the back of my hand now. But basically, Paula tells me what to do, and I get it done.
Thank you. Lovely. Thanks, John. So over the last 18 months, we have managed to continue with our scrutiny, which has been really good. It took us a while to get used to working virtually, but we did get there. It wasn't quite the same, but at least we've carried on. And so one of the big ones that we did was antisocial behaviour, which I'm sure comes up in most organisations as a concern. It's one of those difficult ones to get right. And yes, as we're working virtually on this occasion, we decided to split it down into 2 sections so it was more manageable, because I think when you're working differently, you do just have to change the way you're doing things. So we did find that we needed to split it down into smaller sections. So we broke it down into, first one was a desktop review. So we got some other customers in from residents from Sovereign to come and help us. And we did a desktop review of like the initial findings and things, and what channels are used, how to manage expectations, the definitions of ASB, and especially the ones we find we have real trouble with are the low level ones, because they're the ones that like sort of slip under the sort of light a little bit. And then secondly, went on to the actual customer experience, because we felt it was really important that from the staff point of view and from the resident point of view, that it's the actual experience the customer receives from the service, because it is really emotional, lots of it. So we did some customer journey mapping that to help the staff identify those different touch points and to think slightly more like a customer, so that they could actually feel where we were coming from. So John, did you want to explain a few of our findings?
Yeah, I was just going to add about splitting it into 2 parts. I mean, one of the drivers for that as well was the hope that if we waited a bit longer, we'd actually be able to speak to customers face to face. But obviously that didn't happen, so we had to do that remotely as well. So we sort of produced an interim report for sort of part 1 of the scrutiny. That had a few sort of interim recommendations on it. And then one of the things we've learned is that actually what we like to do is we like to, when there's an obvious recommendation coming up in a scrutiny, even if we've not reported yet, we like to get that recommendation out there so that the service leads and the people delivering the service can start thinking about that and start delivering that, or making or working out how they're going to make it happen. And in our case, the biggest and the simplest one was revamp the website. People were finding it quite hard to find information on ASB on our customer portal. They had to log in to find information to make sure that they were one of our customers, but actually they might not be the tenant who wants to find out about ASB. It might be the tenant's children or wife or husband or whoever it would be. And so that was removed from behind the sort of login wall, and a lot more detail was given on there. We were a lot more open about how we would deal with things and the problems that people could be facing. Another recommendation, and I'll sort of start to explain this now, but we'll probably come back to it at the end, was that we should introduce a new category of ASB, I suppose, and call it unwanted behaviour, because one of the things we found was that people were contacting us and we were saying, okay, right, well, I'll put you through to an ASB officer, and immediately we'd gone, boom, you are suffering from antisocial behaviour. And that set up in someone's mind that that we were going to be able to solve it for them like that by evicting their neighbours or whatever it was. And obviously, you know, you work in the industry, you know that's not the case, that often these things are long and protracted and involve working with the people on the ground, the customers who are experiencing this, to get it sorted out. And so we wanted to sort of have a lower level category to say that this is, yeah, we understand this isn't pleasant, but we don't want to label it as ASB yet. Anyway, bear that in mind. Paula will carry on and we'll come back to that one because it changed.
It just, yeah, and so I mean, I feel one of our sort of strengths really has started by having a really good working relationship with the actual service team themselves. So we do like to get them on board right from the very beginning, so they know where we're coming from and we can understand the difficulties they're having as well, because obviously it works from both sides. So I think that's really important to us, that we work really well with the actual team themselves that we're scrutinising. And so, yes, so following on from the findings that John just mentioned, that we developed our recommendations with the actual senior management team. And so they help us get we talk the recommendations through and get some dates and times so that we know that we can keep an eye on what's going on, so that we can follow it through. And then, yeah, because the staff have been involved from the start, it means they do keep it, you know, they're involved and they know what's going on. So they don't feel like we're telling them what to do. They feel that they've been involved in those recommendations, which makes a really big difference to it all being, you know, put together. Yeah, so actually, I think I've gone through this, that slightly different to what I was going to, but that's when you're talking, it's really hard to know, isn't it? Yes, then like John said, so we came up with some recommendations, like John mentioned, to do with the website, to do with unsocial behaviour. And the other really big one was to make it easy for the residents to report the ASB to the right team within Sovereign. And because that seemed to be a bit of a stumbling block. So I don't know if you wanted to carry on from there, John.
Yeah. And so I think with recommendations in all the scrutinies that we do, we'll recommend an outcome, but we don't recommend how the organisation will necessarily get to that outcome. I mean, sometimes there's suggestions on that, but the outcome, you know, for example, one of the outcomes that we recommended was to ensure, develop and roll out a robust training plan for all staff dealing with ASB, which ensures consistency of approach whilst maintaining impartiality. But the business decides how it will get there. We're just talking about the result that we want as a scrutiny team at this stage, because we're not the experts. We don't know how to roll those things out. Or certainly the residents don't. And so it's not a case of micromanaging Sovereign. It's a case of saying, this is the outcome we want. You tell us how you're going to get to it, and we'll mutually agree a date that we want you to get there by. So, you know, for example, this one was by December this year, and you'll get an update on that at your meeting, at your Christmas meeting, won't you, Paula? From
we will, yes. And in fact, they're really, I think they've already got most of that already launched, which is really good. So we've had updates along. Yeah. So, and like I said, because they were involved from the start, they knew that was something that was coming up. So they were prepared for that and had thought about those background ways that they could start implementing it.
So just to come back to that new category that I mentioned, what we wanted was for people to feel that we were dealing with their case in a way that was honest and open. And so hence sort of not saying to people, you are suffering from ASB, and putting that big old label on their back thinking that magic was going to happen when we couldn't generate magic as an organisation. And so we said introduce a category of behaviour, if you like, called unwanted behaviour. But actually the service leads in their thought processes around redeveloping the service decided that actually that might not be the way to go. So in consultation with the scrutiny group, they said, look, this is our new idea. So it will achieve the same sort of objective, if you like, but it will get there in a different way. And what they said was, let's not immediately start calling things antisocial behaviour, unwanted behaviour, but let's start talking about what it is. So if someone rings us up and says, look, my neighbours, they're so noisy, we'll talk about that in the sense of, you've got noisy neighbours. Yeah, we won't say they are being antisocial and set that up for something that we can just solve by evicting them. So, for example, with noise, really difficult to solve that, especially as everyone's in lockdown. And it's, you know, it's noise during the day of people just living their lives, having their washing machine on, kids playing in the garden, that sort of thing. And so it was a case of, okay, so how do we solve your noise problem? Let's not label you as a victim of antisocial behaviour, but let's sort out this noise problem. And so just to sort of summarize around sort of new ways of solving things, there's going to be a much bigger emphasis on mediation, much bigger emphasis on working with external organisations. So for noise, for example, we need to work with the local authority on that. There was lots of issues around cannabis smoking, and we all know from experience that actually cannabis smoking is something that we can't prove because we don't have the tools to prove that. The police can prove that, but it's not one of their priorities. So ultimately, people are complaining about a smell that might be drugs. And unless someone's dealing from their sort of front door or something like that. But if it's just smelling it, what do we do? But it's about working with people to explain to the people that might be using drugs the effect that has on their neighbours, you know, and be open and honest and have conversations with people.
Yep. Brilliant. So I think that's our 10 minutes up, isn't it? So.
It is again, and then it's flown by, and I'm so multitasking here because I'm tweeting at the same time, because I just wanted to capture the actual impact of that scrutiny and the things that you've actually achieved as a result of that scrutiny. Your better sort of training and developing training, better relationships with the service team, talking about changes to the website, the new category that sort of grew and developed and became something else. Fantastic example of how working in partnership really does deliver some great changes and some improvements. So big well done to Sovereign. Always like to have you here telling us about the stuff that you're doing. I want to say a big thank you. And again, I'm sure we'll have you back to tell us more about the great work you're doing. So thank you, Paula.
Brilliant.
Thank you, John. Enjoy the rest of Scrutiny.
Thanks, Louise.
Look after
Thank you
yourself.
very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Excellent. Again, I think it's always good to make sure that you're working together if you can as a scrutiny group, because great things are achieved by doing that. And I think Sovereign have really sort of took us through that. So we move on, and I'm delighted to welcome Hull. Oh, I love a bit of Hull, I've got to say. Hull City Council are my absolute favourites. I'm always glad to see you. So thank you for joining us today. And I think we've got Carl and we've got Anne with us. We are running slightly behind schedule, but don't let that put you off. I don't want to rush you. You've got your 10 minutes allocated. I'm just letting people know who are watching us on YouTube we're slightly behind. So over to yourselves. Is it you that's going first, Carl, or is it Anne?
It is our chair, Anne Reiki.
Okay, over to Anne then.
Okay, scrutiny as I see it for myself, primarily I feel an achievement in helping improve service and making sure that every department is giving value for money. We as tenants are acting on behalf of our tenants in this manner. We also like at the beginning to establish the outcomes, and then we want to then investigate with the officers in question, whatever department we're on, to do an investigation and then put forward recommendations, keeping the outcome in mind as to what we want to achieve out of this particular scrutiny session. And then after a period of time, after our recommendations have been accepted, we will review the situation, go back to it, have a look and see if the recommendations are working. If not, why not, and what can we do to move it on further? I always remember some advice that I was given, I think it was at one of your meetings as well, and that was to ask as many questions as possible and don't get fobbed off, just keep asking. And then the other thing was also to keep the outcome in mind. Don't get sidetracked. Work towards what your outcome is going to be so that all your efforts are put into that result at the end. So also with regards to all the scrutiny that we've done over the years, I've only been doing it the last couple of years, but we've built up a really good relationship with our officers, both in the TP team and in the officers and the various departments. so that we're not being looked at as being overcritical. We're looking at as being a critical friend, not finding fault. And so that is then respected on both sides. Also, every 3 months, the whole City Council invite us to their scrutiny meeting to actually give an account of what our work has been done and to give the outcomes to them as well. So that's why I keep stressing about having an outcome and knowing what we're looking for, so we can present the facts and figures in the future. I try to remember, as I've just mentioned, that scrutiny is not fault finding. It's looking towards ways of good practice, both for the tenants and for the authority that we're working for, so that it means that they've got a good reputation as giving good service and a good practice. I do also value for money. Mustn't forget that either. Definitely got to have value for money. That's one of the main priorities.
I'm with you on that, definitely.
Right, back to Carl.
Okay. Right. I just basically wanted to just add on to what Anne was saying. I've had it's been a real honour for the last few years to have worked with the scrutiny panel, because they know exactly where they're at, they know what they want, they know exactly the outcomes. And we all thought 18 months ago that, you know, we would lose some of this, you know, with COVID-19 starting. And we've managed to have virtual meetings, which some people like, some people don't. But the scrutiny panel, it's worked really well for. And I have found, and my colleague Cheryl, as you all know, sits opposite me, and I've come away from scrutiny meetings in the last 18 months, and I have done, you know, from face to face. And she says, "God, Carl, you are beaming." I said, "I am," because I said the buzz, from the minute we start, the group have been throwing these recommendations, these questions, their enthusiasm is second to none. It is brilliant. And when officers do attend, and we've been doing a review on the services for vulnerable people, starting with adaptations, the amount of questions that came out of it, the amount of, you know, the group, which they always have done, have actually read these documents, have read the information, they've researched, they've done the level best to know what they're talking about. And we've had that particular chunk of work. We've made the recommendations. The people, the officers in that relevant department have accepted them and have implemented them. They're a pleasure to work with. But for me, scrutiny is everything. We scrutinise everything. You know, we have a scrutiny panel, we have an estate management focus group, we have multi-storey living, customer access, repairs and maintenance. All that information and data is scrutinised in some way or another. Our scrutiny panel is what's read between the lines, the finer, the small print, as I put it. But everything in Hull is scrutinised by our volunteers and fed back to the wider community as well, which, you know, they are all kept well informed. So yeah, I'm really proud of it. Really proud of my little group. It's not my little group, it's the council's, but I'm really proud of them for what they do. I can't thank them enough, to be quite honest. And you know, it's a lot of serious stuff goes through, but there is that banter, that camaraderie, and we all know each other, and we have a really good working relationship with you know, the tenants, and that is paramount. But no, it gets fed back a lot. You know, we have a lot of tenants and residents groups, and they, you know, and you feed them certain information, you know, from these meetings. They all attend, you know, a lot of these meetings, and it's feeding out. You can see it's like being drip fed into, you know, there's somebody who I haven't even met before says something. I think, oh, you've picked that up from a member of the Tara, you know. So they're getting to know and that's how it's all what it's all about.
Brilliant. Again, I am always impressed by the work that's done at Hull, and I say that with with complete sincerity, because you do some fantastic things. But I'm also impressed by the passion, the enthusiasm, the relationships that you've got. I love the fact that you go to the council scrutiny and you're involved in that as well. The connections are fantastic. So a big well done. And yeah, absolutely celebrate the fantastic stuff that you're doing there. So I'd like to thank you both. Thank you for coming this morning and sharing that with us.
And also we'd like to, and for me, I'd like to thank TPAS, and I know Anne would, because obviously you give us some value, these like scrutiny weeks and what have you, because they're brilliant, and it gets people networking, gets other people, other organisations get to know each other, and that is fab.
Brilliant. Oh, well, thank you for that then. Really appreciate that, Carl. Thanks again,
Thank
and
you.
thanks, Carl. You take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Excellent. So thanks to Hull, and again, really good to see that partnership working there, and some good stuff in terms of the impact and the difference scrutiny is making. So next up, in the scrutiny showcase, again, really pleased to have Rotherham with us. Got a big soft spot for Rotherham. Used to work there way back. That's where my engagement sort of life started. So I'm delighted to welcome into the showcase. We've got Assam, and I think we've got Mary with us as well. So welcome to you both. How are you? Are you well?
Morning, Louise. Lovely to be here, and
morning. Morning, Mary. Good to have you both. I'm not sure who's going first. Is it Mary or Asim that wants to kick us off?
I'll kick us off. I'll kick us off, Louise, and then I'll bring Mary in. So thank you for giving me and Mary the opportunity to share some of the work we've done in Rotherham. It's a great pleasure and privilege to be here as part of the National Scrutiny Week. And so my name's Asim Munir. I work as the Tenant Involvement Coordinator for Rotherham Council. And Mary, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Mary Jakes. I'm a council tenant. I'm also chair of Rotherham Federation.
Thank you, Mary. Just to give you a bit of background to our tenant scrutiny panel, we're very fortunate in Rotherham because we've got a tenant federation contract with Rotherfed, our local tenant federation, and they do some brilliant work on our behalf in terms of empowering tenants and tarers to get involved in our housing services. But also as part of our contract with Rotherfed, they also manage the tenant scrutiny panel on our behalf, and they've done some outstanding scrutiny reviews. Just to name a few, the first one they did was how we can improve engagement with young people, repairs, antisocial behaviour, aids and adaptations. And the next one they're going to be looking at is improving estate services and communal areas, which will contribute nicely to the new decent home standards as part of the new housing white paper requirement. So what I'm going to do now is just to go back down memory lane and just share a few outcomes from the scrutiny review that we've undertaken. And then Mary's just going to talk about what it's been like from a tenant perspective, being involved in the tenant scrutiny panel. So I'm just going to share the screen. Not me a minute.
That's all right, Asim. I think you're all right to do it. I think Lisa's given everybody permission to share the screen this morning.
Yeah.
There we go. Got you.
Yeah. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Brilliant. This is our latest one. The test story dealing with the antisocial behaviour.
No, it's not late.
I'm just trying to get down. So we completed our aid and adaptation scrutiny review. That was done in November 2020. Due to COVID-19, there'd been some delay in progress, but the council is currently working on an action plan to meet the recommendations made in the report. So we look forward to sharing that with TPAT at a future meeting. But most recently, we did one around antisocial behaviour. The scrutiny panel found 9 ways to improve the service, and we can now report on how the council has made these changes. So the scrutiny panel said they wanted to bring the policy and procedure guidance for staff up to date. The policy and procedure guidance have been updated. Some working practices and the IT supporting these will be updated in October 2021, which is this month. Making sure that people raise antisocial behaviour issues don't have to start again each time the same person causes them a problem. So the housing system do leave cases open, and we discussed these with the Community Protection Unit to see if they can leave that open on their system too, but they are not certain that they can be influenced. Provide a personal plan for each person during the investigation so they know how often they will be contacted. The personal plan will be agreed at the start of each investigation alongside a risk assessment. The plan will agree how often the person will be contacted, how this will happen, and the lead contact for the case. Plans will be in place from October 2021. Then closure letters to explain when a case has been closed and the reason for this. So the new case closure letters are being used, and a text service was introduced in February 2020 last year for people to give their feedback on how their case was handled. Also, the scrutiny panel said make sure that all officers work the same way through training and close manager check. So the council did joint training once COVID restrictions were lifted. Managers are checking all cases during supervision meetings, and IT will be set up to record this. Improve IT system to help with record keeping and to allow sharing across different teams in the council who deal with antisocial behaviour. So a new IT system is being used from October 2021 to help with the sharing of information and better record keeping. Improve publicity to tell people what is possible and how long the case may take to resolve. A customer leaflet is being developed for people who do not have access to the website. Letters are being rewritten to make sure that everyone knows how long cases may last. A standard nuisance monitoring form is being used by all teams. Check why there are more cases of antisocial behaviour being reported. The increase in cases has been checked, and it's due to some changes in IT causing some cases to be counted twice. Make sure that all officers have a better understanding of what information can be shared with people affected and with other teams. This will be included in the joint training plan for later in 2021. So you can see from this scrutiny review, there have been some suggestions that we've been able to fully meet, but also we're very honest, fair and transparent in ensuring that we're honest with our tenants. Even if there's some suggestions that we can't meet, we do feed that back to the scrutiny panels. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to try and share another scrutiny review with you, which will be the repairs one. Share my screen again.
Yeah, no worries. Hopefully that'll come up soon. Yep.
Can everybody see that?
Yeah, we've got, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So this was the repair scrutiny review that we did, which was really useful because it informed the new service specification when we tendered out for 2 new contractors. And this was successfully awarded to Mears and Energy following a very robust, rigorous and competitive tendering process, which Mary was part of in terms of the tenant having their say on the which tenders we should appoint. So the scrutiny panel said, improve how all staff should keep record of vulnerable tenants. The safeguarding training was taking place twice a year with repair staff, including the new contractors. A referral app for staff phones had been tested. Make sure that tenant details are recorded correctly when reporting a repair. The contact centre have been reminded of the need to take accurate information. A new telephone system to check if people are happy with their repairs will make sure that contact details are correct. Improve the website to allow better reporting of repairs online. By June 2020, a new way of reporting repairs online will be available for tenants to use. This will be more convenient for tenants and stop many of the calls coming into the contact centre. This will be tested with tenants before June. Make sure that repairs sent by email are responded to quicker than before, so email reporting shouldn't be needed once the online system is in place. The scrutiny panel said make sure that people know that repairs shouldn't take 28 days to complete, which has caused anxiety. So appointments now are made when the repair is reported, and these are all within 28 days, unless this isn't convenient for the tenant. More time slots and evenings and weekends are being made available as a result. Provide a better list with more details of which repairs are classed as emergencies. The list of emergency repairs has been changed to include most of the suggestions made by the panel. This has been advertised in our tenant newsletter, Home Matters, which goes out every quarter. Check the type of repairs that need repeat visit. These have been checked, and this is included in the new repairs and maintenance contract. Check on customer feedback after repairs by use of a text messaging service. A new text messaging survey service has been up and running from June last year. Test whether repairs are right first time without relying on customer satisfaction surveys. Right first time is written into the new repairs and maintenance contract, which was awarded last year, as I mentioned. So I've talked about the ASB one. I'm going to stop sharing that one.
Brilliant. Thanks, Asim.
Do you want me to share another one, or have we got any time?
I think, yeah, we're not too far in terms of running out of time, I'm afraid, Asim.
No problem.
Yeah. But again, I think it's really valuable that you've done that, and thanks to yourself and Mary for really sort of highlighting the impact of scrutiny. I know we talk a lot about the models and the processes, but the true test is actually what it's delivered at the end. And, you know, fair play to the scrutiny in Rotherham. I think you've actually secured some fantastic outcomes, as you've just shown us there. So big thank you to you both for coming in and sharing that with us. And yeah, I'm sure it'll carry on being amazing, as it always is, Asim and Mary. So thank you to you both. I hope that, I mean, in terms of going forward then, Asim, just quickly, and Mary, what's your next topic that you're looking to tackle?
I'm going to hand over to Mary.
Hiya, Louise. Can I just say to you, I can remember when you worked in Rotherham, and I've been a volunteer for 25 years. So it's just showing your age. Sorry, I know. Tell me about it. I know. Was like just, you know, a youngster setting out, and now all these years later. Just a baby. Anyway, basically we're doing estates and caretaking. Our next project. I mean, even though we've been in lockdown through COVID, you know, we've been Zooming and doing stuff like that. And I've got to say, as a volunteer, we do work closely with council. They're amazing, really. Yeah. I mean, if it weren't for council, there won't be any Rutherford, would there, really? So it's good that we do work very closely with Rotherham Council. So yeah, that's our next project.
And I think that comes through, doesn't it? Again, it's that great example of working in partnership, you know, with the council, with yourselves at Rotherford, and with the volunteers and the wider tenant group. I think you've got it absolutely sussed, and I think it's a great model. The fact the council sort of outsources and commissions actual tenants to run this stuff, doesn't it? So I think again, fantastic. And always really impressed. So I'll have to come back and see you all at some point. Won't I? Yeah,
face to face again.
Yeah, you will. That'd be lovely. Brilliant. Well, I'd love to do that. Thanks again, you two. It's been lovely to see you as usual. Look after yourselves.
Bye. Okay, thank you. Thank you for having us. Bye.
No worries. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, brilliant. Lovely to hear from Rotherham. A bit of a trip down memory lane for me there with Mary. So it's always good to do that. So yeah, we're going to move on. I'm delighted we've got our next organisation waiting for us to present. We've got Notting Hill Genesis, and I think in the session we have Ollie, and I think potentially we've got Lindy as well. Is that correct? That's looking about right. Brilliant. Well, welcome to you both. Thank you for joining us this morning on our scrutiny showcase. And I'm not sure who's going to be speaking first. Is it yourself, Ollie, or will it be Lindy first?
Yeah, I'll kick things off.
Brilliant. Over to yourself then. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Thanks for inviting us on this week.
Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Ollie Levy. I'm the resident involvement manager for Notting Hill Genesis. And yeah, we've got Linda Carr with me, who is one of our very experienced residents in the world of involvement, but also in scrutiny as well. So Linda, do you want to just introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, my name's Linda. I retired from the board after 9 years last week. And we actually merged two large housing associations. I think there were 66,000 homes, weren't they, Ollie?
That's right.
Yeah. And it took us 2 years and a lot of hard work with Ollie and his team. Ollie, do you want?
Yeah, so we thought we'd start today just by talking about what we think scrutiny means, kind of from the perspective of myself in the involvement team, and also what Linda has picked up in the last few years. So yeah, Linda, what do you, when you think about scrutiny, what do you immediately talk about? What do you think about? What do you mean by scrutiny?
I think, this is just my view, I suppose I wouldn't see anything wrong with our system, but scrutiny to me is that the residents, leaseholders or social residents, have an input into what's going on. And Ollie, wouldn't you agree? We've now managed that we have scrutiny from the board, on the committees, resident voices group, resident scrutiny, and the information flows. Don't you think so, Ollie?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, scrutiny definitely is about holding the organisation to account at almost every level, and that's certainly something that we're trying to do with Notting Hill Genesis, and something that we were very keen to implement when the two legacy organisations merged. Yeah, it's enabling residents to examine closely all the services that they receive ultimately, and it does come in many different forms, and we can speak a bit more about that. So you know, whether it's looking at the KPIs and performance information of our repairs teams, whether it's sort of deeper dives into service processes and improving the customer experience, or whether it's just looking at, you know, communications that go out to residents, whether that's a rent letter or a safeguarding policy or building safety information. So scrutiny definitely comes, like Linda says, in many different forms and throughout the organisation, really. What I can do now actually is show you, if I can share my screen, our model of involvement. And this really sort of reinforces, I hope everyone can see that, Louise. This really reinforces what we're trying to do at Notting Hill. So what you can see here is a lot of very complicated arrows, but actually what it demonstrates is that, yeah, scrutiny does come in a very local setting with our resident associations. We have defined scrutiny groups who look at our sort of local feedback in a more deeper dive kind of form. And then, as Linda says, we have the resident voices group, which sort of sits at the top of our involvement offer, and it really looks at all the different feedback coming in from our different groups. And then Linda will talk in a second about how that feeds into the group board and our committee level. But just to give an example of a scrutiny, I'll stop sharing my screen, of some scrutiny that we've done in the last year, which I think has been quite effective, has been around building safety. So I think the good thing about scrutiny and the offer of scrutiny amongst housing associations is that it can be quite responsive. And obviously, since since Grenfell, building safety has been at the top of many residents' concerns, and I was pleased that we were involved with a very good piece of scrutiny of our building safety information that goes to residents. So we had a scrutiny group look at the different touch points in which residents can receive information about building safety. And this was really effective because it really allowed them to work alongside staff, which I think is, again, a crucial part of any kind of scrutiny offer, to pick apart what worked well and what wasn't working well in terms of the provision of information. And what we found was a really comprehensive set of recommendations at the end about essentially what information should be provided and where and how. And it was a really good example of scrutiny being responsive to sort of national issues. And that has actually led on to more work around our building safety strategy. Residents have got involved in procurement of new building safety contractors. And as well as that, looking at sort of building safety templates as well. So the appeal of scrutiny has always been what it can lead to as well. And I think, Linda, you might have found that in some of your work that you've done in the local setting as well.
No, absolutely. But I do think it's important to say that the only reason that we have been able to do this is because our chair and CEO are very, very much for resident involvement. And so we've been allowed, that's an awful word, but we've been enabled to do these things, yeah. And the one negative thing I think is that I wish younger people would get involved more, because otherwise it's just committees with all of people my age group, retired. And if youngsters would get involved, it would bring some fresh blood. But I understand, you know, that they've got heavy commitments. But as Ollie said, things, for example, the board, they cannot know about everything. And because resident involvement has created this wonderful system, yeah, of sharing information, it means that the board does become aware of what sounds perhaps a small issue, but can be resolved very easily. I don't know. What do you think, Ollie?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think what the arrows was trying to show on that model was that the feedback loop is essential with scrutiny, and it's all very well and good having those conversations in a local setting or with our more established scrutiny groups, but if no one at the decision-making end of the organisation can hear that, then it renders scrutiny quite ineffective. So yeah, it's fundamental that there is a link between what we hear on the ground and what gets discussed at committee level, at executive level. So you're right, like that's a fundamental part of this process, and it doesn't always work as smoothly as we like, but there's definitely a system in place to enable the feedback loop to close off, which I think makes scrutiny what it is and what it should do across the sector, basically.
I mean, Resident Voices Group, we discuss what's sometimes what people would say mediocre issues, but out of that, other issues come, and I think it's brilliant. The one thing I would say is, it does sound complicated because we are a huge organisation, but I think everybody could use that format, peel it down. It would be much easier for them to achieve. And with the support of their CEO and chair, I don't see why anybody can do that. I'm sure everybody could. Yeah. Don't you think so, Ollie?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the feedback and the change certainly comes from the bottom up, but in terms of that leadership and that drive to use resident feedback for service improvement is top down. So yeah, it's definitely both sides of the scale, I guess, working together to get a good outcome. So but yeah, I mean that's just a short summary of what we do at Notting Hill Genesis. I hope that was useful for everyone.
Absolutely, very useful. And I think you sort of really flagged up some key points about scrutiny as well. You know, talking very much about the connections to the board and how you need buy-in, particularly from that, you know, top level, you know, to get everyone on board with it. I think the feedback, again, you're absolutely right. You know, it doesn't matter what size your organisation is, you know, getting that right is fundamental, isn't it, to make sure, you know, that information gets back about the changes and what's been happening. So it must be a challenge, I'm sure, working in such a you know, a big organisation. But I love the fact you've got your diagram, you're clear about, you know, what you're doing, and you've obviously got some fantastic volunteers on board as well. And we all struggle with that younger element, isn't it? How do we get the younger element in? But hopefully, you know, they'll see the positives around, you know, training and developing their CV, things like that, because scrutiny is a great way of doing that as well. But fantastic. And I just want to say a big thanks for giving up your time this morning to come along and share with us on Scrutiny Week the way that you do scrutiny in your organisation. So thanks to you, Linda, and thanks, Ollie, as well for joining us. You look after yourselves.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Excellent. Really good mix of organisations that we've had this morning, and it's always good to see how scrutiny is working across them, because there are obviously different challenges depending on where you are. Okay, next up in the scrutiny showcase this morning, I'm delighted to welcome Cross Keys, who are based down in Peterborough. I'm delighted to welcome Tom, Ted, and I think we've maybe got Jason. Oh, nice to see Jason with us as well. So over to yourselves. I'm not sure who's going to be going first. Who would that be?
I think it's going to be me, Ted Murray.
Excellent. Yeah. Over to yourself then.
Sorry? I'll introduce myself. Yeah, I'm a member, resident of Cross Keys. I've been a resident for about, since they began. I've been involved with Cross Keys for about 17 years on various panels. I think I've been on every panel they've had. I'm currently involved with scrutiny, area panel, and the resident.
Oh. Ted, we've just lost you, I think, for the time being. I think the connection may have gone a little bit unstable. Can you hear us at all? No. Okay, I don't know whether Jason or Tom, you'd be able to step in and just cover for Ted while we may be getting back into the session.
Yeah, I can if you like. I am Jason, resident for Homes. Been on, like Ted, been on lots of other groups. Presently, we're both on scrutiny. Yeah, been a resident of Cross Keys for about, well, before it was Cross Keys, about 19 years. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, I think we've got Ted back with us now. Ted, sorry, we lost you for a few moments. So I don't know whether you want to pick up where you left off before you... Oh, I think we can't hear you at the moment, Ted. I don't know if you're on mute at all or whether... No, I don't think you are on mute. It just seems a problem with your sound, unfortunately. No, it doesn't seem to be coming through at all. I don't know if you've got earphones in or any kind of device, Ted, but it's really difficult to hear at the moment. I'm really sorry. Well, we'll try again. We will come back to you and see if we can get sound connected. So I'm going to maybe hand over to Tom. I don't know, Tom, if you wanted to come in at this point.
Yeah, so I can sort of jump in and say what we were going to say, and Jason, feel free to come in at any point, and Ted, if we can hear you. So yeah, so obviously we're Cross Keys Homes in Peterborough, a stock transfer housing association. We have around 12 to 13,000 homes now, mainly in Peterborough, but some outside. And this scrutiny and our scrutiny panel, which has been going in its current form for the last sort of 3-4 years, is made up of mainly experienced sort of involved residents. So Ted, Jason have been on our residents board previously. So it's an experienced group of scrutiny is. And so we wanted to talk about sort of some of the past projects we've done. So one of our big past projects was fly tipping. So we looked at how sort of the issue and the costs associated with fly tipping, which affect the business, could be reduced. And we made some of the key recommendations which the panel made, included a new bulky waste collection service for residents, which came in for our Rangers team and is at a reduced cost to our local authority. So it's cheaper for our residents to have bulky items removed. They also recommended implementing a education programme in local primary schools on fly tipping and recycling, and that continues. So I actually was at a school yesterday, and I've been doing Teams meetings at schools, talking to primary school children about explaining what fly tipping is and about recycling to help improve our communities. And we also have they implemented an ongoing sort of communication campaign on fly tipping, and we have constant messages on our social media and our Key Lines magazine about sort of fly tipping and sort of waste removal. So I don't know if Jason and Ted, if you want to come in on any of that at all.
I think so. Also on the plan works, we also made sure that our workers also had a braille card, so that they could tell who was coming to on their badge as well. So that people who were either partially sighted or blind could tell it was a Cross Keys worker coming as well.
Yeah, so as Jason says, we've also looked at our plan works, procedure and policy, and so we introduced better communication for our contractors with like braille on the badges, and also some communication slips to let residents know they've been surveyed, as well as introducing resident representation onto our reinvestment panel, which is our internal panel which looks at plan work scheduling and how plan works, and that didn't have any residents directly involved in that until the scrutiny project, and also the plan works policy was updated as well following the feedback from the scrutiny panel. So it doesn't like Ted's still having problems because Ted was going to be leading on all this, so apologies.
Oh, don't worry.
We've also looked at our new My CKH app as well. So this was a couple of years ago. So the panel looked at the effectiveness of the app and made recommendations on how it can be improved and how it could be promoted more to residents. And sort of for those sort of topics we've spoken about, we had 100% success rate in those recommendations being passed and being actioned. And we obviously we have like KPIs, and we monitor every scrutiny recommendation that goes through to make sure it's completed by its set date. So myself and my colleague Karen, who's our new resident involvement manager, sort of worked with the scrutiny panel to sort of ensure the reports are made and the recommendations go through. We currently have, I think, 5 members, with 1 member hopefully joining shortly. During lockdown, unfortunately, we lost a couple of members due to sort of issues with technology and to illness. And the lockdown happened just as our plan works report had been signed off. So all of the scrutiny panel's recommendations and reports go to our residents board to be approved. So that happened just as lockdown happened. So we had to start again a new project under lockdown using Teams for the very first time, because previously we met monthly in person. So we started a new project shortly after lockdown, which was on how Cross Keys communicate with those that are digitally excluded, because that was a big issue that we'd found during the first lockdown. And so that project was very thorough, but it was a new way of working, and that's currently undergoing sort of some changes. That the report's nearly done. The report's good. It's just sort of looking at it again and the remit slightly, but that should be signed off sort of shortly. So I know it's a sort of 10 minutes to coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jason wants to say anything more.
No, I think you just about said it all, Tom, to be fair. But yeah, like Thomas mentioned, we had to do things differently, obviously. So most of us meet up or met online. Like he's already said, we're all experienced resident members. Yeah.
Apologies at Ted. Yeah, unfortunately.
No, I'm feeling Ted's pain, because I've been there, Ted, when things have not worked, and it's such a frustrating feeling, isn't it? And you know, I'm really sorry we've not managed to hear from you this morning. But wanted to say a big thank you for you in terms of coming along, and to yourself, and also to Jason and to Tom as well. And again, some really clear examples of the difference scrutiny is making, particularly, you know, like that example around, you know, the Braille, and making sure now that that's on name badges. I think that's such a great and powerful example of the influence scrutiny can have in terms of looking at things from all perspectives, really. So brilliant. Thank you ever so much to all of you, and lovely to see you, and thanks for joining us on Scrutiny Week. So look after yourselves and take care. Thank you.
Yes, bye.
Bye. Okay, that was Cross Keys. It was good to hear from them, talking about some of the successes that their scrutiny groups had. And now we're going to move on to our next organisation. I'm delighted to welcome to the showcase this morning Stockport Homes. I think we've got on my list Jonathan, Pamela and Bob. So I'm just going to cross-reference that with our little boxes on screen, and that's looking about right, which is good. Not sure who's going to go first. So
I'll start. I'll just share my screen.
Brilliant, thank you.
Slides prepared. With me. Can you all see that?
We can. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Amazing, brilliant. So yeah, hi everyone. Hope you've all enjoyed your morning so far. So as Louise said, my name's Johnny. I'm here with Pamela and Bob from our scrutiny panel, and we're just going to talk to you a little bit about how Stockport Homes do customer scrutiny. So just to start off, really. Our customer scrutiny panel have been reviewing services since 2011. We use an inspection style approach, and the panel have completed 17 service reviews over that time over various services across Stockport Homes. Our emphasis is on the co-regulatory relationship between scrutiny and governance, and the benefits this brings, including setting the right culture for scrutiny to work effectively. So in terms of the structure, the panel has a direct link with the operations committee, which is a committee of our board who receive and approve the panel's reports. We found that having a scrutiny panel as part of the wider governance structure has given the panel really significant status within the organisation. This has created a culture whereby scrutiny is seen as an essential part of our co-regulation at Stockport Homes. So in terms of the panel and how they work, new members are recruited based on their skills and experiences that they can bring to the panel, and existing members are heavily involved in the recruitment process. The panel is supported by a designated governance officer and is supported by an independent mentor who assists with the writing of reports, making sure that reviews are focused and they're looking at the right things. This just really ensures that the panel are not bogged down with detail and admin, and therefore can take a more strategic view on services and how they can improve. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the CSP had an annual away day, and we'll hopefully be getting back to that later this year. Now we can meet in person again, which we're really looking forward to. At the away day, we try to focus on the values of Stockport Homes, so this can reinforce to the panel that they're buying into the wider culture of the organisation. So I'm just going to pass you over to Bob and Pamela now. So they're just going to talk to you a little bit about some previous reviews we've done so far this year on the one number service and the customer safety team. So just handing over to Bob now.
Good morning. Can you see me? Just let me put my light out. That's better. Yeah. Yes. I'm a member of the Customer Scrutiny Panel, and I have been a member for just over 3 years now. In early 2021, it was agreed the Scrutiny Panel would review the one number service. The service was updated in autumn 2019 to enable customers to access a wide range of information and support at the first point of contact via either telephone or web chat. This is a vital service for all customers, being the first point of contact with Stockport Homes. And we wanted to review the effectiveness of the service. In 2022, Stockport Homes will review their customer access strategy, and our findings will contribute to this review. We chose the following areas to focus the review on: ease of access to the service, how effectively inquiries are dealt with, how the service obtains, measures and uses customer satisfaction, and how the quality of the service is monitored. We used a variety of methods to gather a range of information and evidence in relation to the service. Briefing from staff on the service, logging our experiences, listening to a random selection of call recordings, reviewing web chats, and reviewing customer satisfaction surveys. We did that. We felt that some areas of the service could be improved. These included providing a general inquiries option to the telephone menu, promoting web chat service more, and improving customer communication when inquiries are referred to other departments, and increasing the number of satisfaction surveys undertaken. Overall, we recommended 6 changes to the service in order to improve the customer experience. All the recommendations were accepted by the service and then later approved by the board. For me personally, when I presented the report to the board, one defining moment was that I was able to report that 40% of the recommendations had already been implemented. A further 40% would be completed within a short space of time, and that already one of the recommendations we had made, the service was able to report to the board some interim findings. And the board asked us to continue to monitor this. For me, that is a defining moment. That is part of what we do. I'll now hand you over to Pam, who will tell you about another one of our reviews.
Can we see?
Yes, sorry, Pam. Can you hear us all right? I think
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes. Over to yourself.
Okay, the customer safety team makes sure that Stockport Homes customers receive their annual gas safety check and an electrical test every 5 years. In order to ensure that every customer receives their service check, the customer safety team have in place a process to arrange appointments. Whilst there is 100% compliance in carrying out gas and electrical checks, on occasion we found the tone of the letters is not well received by customers, and some customers can take several letters and texts before an appointment is made and kept. The service themselves made a request to the customer scrutiny panel to consider this issue. As all customers will receive some customer safety visit at some point, we felt that undertaking a review would be of benefit of both to customers and to Stockport Homes. Following a briefing from staff on the service, we chose to review the following areas: the timelines, quality of information and format of the letters, the range and effectiveness of communication methods used to make appointments, and the information available to customers on gas servicing and electrical testing. We reviewed communications with customers, all letters against the customer journey map, information on the website and information in the tenant handbook. We found that whilst current letters are sufficient in ensuring gas and electrical tests are undertaken, they have not been reviewed for some time. We felt the letters would benefit from being rewritten in a new format to ensure the key actions that customers need to take stand out and make clear the benefits that regular checks provide in keeping people safe. Overall, 6 recommendations for service changes have been made. Our panel will next meet with the service this month to propose those recommendations and seek their support before going to the Operations Committee for approval in November. We've always found that the Operations Committee make us feel very welcome and engage thoroughly with our reports. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam and Bob. Thanks for that. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what this means for the panel. So panel members work as a team, bringing their skills and experience to the scrutiny process. However, there are benefits which flow the other way too, which we think is really important. The panel know it has influence, its words carry weight, and as they've just mentioned, the recommendations are taken seriously, which I think can be really empowering to customers and tenants. Being part of the panel has become a place of personal development for its members, some grow in confidence, which can translate positively into other areas of their life. I think we've certainly seen that. And panel members now have recently have access to a free in-house level 1 qualification that we call participation, which covers various modules such as marketing, project management and problem solving, amongst others. So this will allow members to learn new skills which will support them in their personal and professional lives, as well as providing more skills which can be used in the work with the panel. We really hope that this will also act as an incentive for other customers to want to join the panel and get involved in the work they do. So just to finish really, what's next? We always want to improve what we do. We want to review the terms of reference to ensure that we're still fit for purpose. We're focused on outcomes and capturing key elements of the white paper, and it's together with tenants charter. We want to better use customer feedback data to inform which services the panel choose to carry out the reviews. This will mean that the service reviews will be more mutually beneficial, as the panel will be reviewing services which genuinely need to improve. And as Stockport Homes edges closer to becoming a larger provider, we will be required to demonstrate compliance with the regulatory standards in a more detailed way. And we really want the CSP to be part of that process, to sense check that customers, as customers, that they can confirm we're doing the right thing. And the CSP will therefore really be a key part of the overall process as we prepare for regulation, which is a really big thing for our organisation. So just to conclude, Stockport Homes scrutiny panel is really critical to our approach of co-regulation with the panel. As we've shown, this has served us well and brings tangible benefits to the board, the panel itself and the company's officers. It also positions us really well in the face of growing challenges and expectations of what scrutiny can be doing going forward. So that's everything from me, Pam and Bob. Thanks for your time, and I hope you enjoy the final day of Scrutiny Week.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you ever so much. And again, the theme of today has really been shining a spotlight on some of the real great impacts or the changes, the improvements that have been made as a result of scrutiny. So your customer access stuff that you were talking about, customer safety, some real strong indications there that scrutiny is really making an impact and a big difference. So fair play to you. Great job, and really, really good that you've come along this morning to share that with us. So thank you to you all, and look after yourselves, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Brilliant there to hear from Stockport. And again, as I've just said, the strong theme coming through from all the sessions today is the difference, regardless of where the organisation is, the size of the organisation, there's some real impactful results going off because of scrutiny. So that's excellent. Okay, we move on now to our next organisation. I'm so pleased that we've got Warrington Housing Association with us, and I'm so pleased that Bernie's joined us. It's always lovely to see Bernie. She's a real big supporter of scrutiny and all we do at TPAS. So I'm delighted we've got you with us. And it looks like we've got 2 additional people in the room with you, Bernie. So I'll hand over to you and let you do the introductions and start your presentation when you're ready.
Oh, thanks so much, Louise. Yeah, we've, like other speakers have said, we've thoroughly enjoyed this week. So thank you so much. We've got our chair here, Chair of Scrutiny, Julie. So she's going to introduce first.
Hello, as Bernie's just said, my name's Julie. I've been a resident of Warrington Housing for 23 years, and I'm the chair of the scrutiny panel and have been for the past 12 years. We currently have 6 members, 3 of which we managed to coerce or recruit during COVID, which was really, really good because we didn't expect, we thought during COVID, we did lose a few people before COVID. So we thought it's quite an achievement really during COVID to have got people to be interested in joining. We have a really, really good working relationship with Warrington Housing, and they're very supportive of us. So I'll just hand you over now to Leslie, who's sat beside me, and she'll give you a little bit more.
Yeah, as Julie just said, my name's Leslie. I've been on a scrutiny panel for over 15 years plus, and I've also been resident with Warrington Housing for 42 years. And basically, the things that we've all done together, it's been absolutely fantastic. And I'll pass you back over to Bernie so that Bernie can tell you all the details now that we've done recently and everything. Over to you, Bernie.
So we were, like Julie said, because we've had some new recruits, and my role has sort of born out of, obviously in relation to the white paper, because we've now got a full-time, which is me, customer voice officer, but also to strengthen that connection with engagement, which is a big part of my job, is scrutiny. So for the last 2 years, I've been doing it as an add-on to my other role. And I think, we're quite proud of what we've achieved, really. I think recently, with because of COVID, sort of any projects we've done have been a bit haphazard. But in our action plan this year was to look at 2 areas, which is repairs and voids. So we've just completed the repairs, haven't we? And we're just collating the evidence now. I think we could say that through doing that, and especially good for the new members, that it's been really beneficial for them to actually have, person-to-person contact on the phone, where we've been doing like the phone surveys. And it just shows that talking to people, no matter in the age of social media, and we use all the channels like everybody else does, but you can't beat that being on the street talking to people and obviously on the phone. So so we've got repairs. So we've got a meeting in 2 weeks where we're going to formalise sort of what the opinions of our acronym for scrutiny is WASP, because we're Warrington Housing Association Scrutiny Panel, so we always refer to WASP. So WASP will sit down in that meeting and we'll be able to look at what WASP's recommendations are. We really liked what ASIM did at Rotherham with the sort of like you said we did. So we might liberate that if that's all right.
I'm sure that'll be fine.
And then in February, we're due to look at voids. We've also, we've now started taking on more shared ownership properties. So we're really keen for scrutiny to be involved in the full process of that. But also, which I'd be really keen on with starting my new role, is to include scrutiny in all our engagement. So we've done 2 post-lockdown where scrutiny have been present. Actually, yesterday we did one in the pouring rain about aids and adaptations. And it was great again because we were out there on patch talking to people. And I know we're a smaller association, but I think the fundamentals of one team approach, if we start that, so we're getting somebody from all our departments as well as scrutiny always being involved, because I want them to be valued, feel valued, and they are valued, and therefore that cascades onto our other residents to know that, you know, we are there for the residents, good or bad or indifferent. Do you want to add anything else, Julie?
Basically, yeah, like Bernie said, we're going on to do voids. We do find it quite useful to do site visits, so that as a scrutiny panel, we'll get, I've done this previously, but I know the newer people that are with us won't have done this. You can see how people leave the properties, whether it's, what we're looking for is hopefully we can find a couple of properties that we get both ends of the spectrum. And it gives people a better understanding of how long and why a property stands empty for so long, because it's not always a case of you hand your keys in on Friday and somebody can move in next week. And covering voids, I think that's something that we really need to emphasise, that yes, we might have a property empty for 2 months, 3 months, but that's probably because of the way previous tenants left it.
Yeah. And just quickly on other than the actual projects we do within our action plan, you know, as all associations, you're talking about how to improve everything. I know people have touched on websites, and we're about to embark on having an app, because we've had a customer portal, but we've run into lots of issues with customer portal. You know, it's not as accessible on mobiles and such like, but scrutiny have been pivotal in making many changes to the website and to the portal, which again, I think when you're looking at outcomes, you know, it just shows it's not just the big set projects we do through the year, it's the things that they're picking up as a resident, but also as a scrutineer throughout the year. You know, this button needs to be bigger, to be more accessible on the website. You know, that doesn't stand out, you know, and it's great to have customers' eyes on it. So I just think it's you know, it's wonderful. And like one of the gents said before, I'm dead proud of WASP, and we hope to grow it bigger, and, you know, create more community champions who don't want to be as involved. So that's us.
Fantastic. Again, do you know what? It's been really nice to sort of listen in a bit more detail about what you do there, because I've picked up bits on Twitter and I've sort of seen, you know, things going off, and I've always had a really good feeling about what you're doing. But the fact that you're, you know, together today, sort of just giving us a bit more, has really cemented that. I just love the fact that you get out there. I mean, I don't know if you picked up some of the top tips from Dr. McKenna. Dave McKenna was talking about how important site visits were, and actually getting out there and seeing for yourselves, and you were out in the pouring rain doing just that, you know, for aids and adaptations. You've done site visits for other stuff, so I think that to me is absolutely fantastic and a really good example of what you can do when it comes to scrutiny, to just make sure that you are getting out and seeing what's going off out there on the ground. So massive well done to you. I love it, and I love the fact that you've got this idea of having tenant influencers as well. So there's clearly a lot of really innovative stuff going off at Warrington, and I know you're only a small organisation, but actually that just makes no difference, because what you're doing is fantastic. So I'm so pleased you've shared it with us today. Big thank you to you all for coming along and for supporting Scrutiny Week generally, and I'm sure we'll have you back, and we'll see how things are going in the future. So thanks to you all, it's been lovely.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Cheers. Bye bye. Excellent. Really good to hear from Warrington and the stuff that they're doing there. Wow, I can't believe I've nearly been sat here for 2 hours. It's absolutely flown by, and you know, I can't believe we're actually now at the last Scrutiny Showcase Again, last but not least, most definitely, it's always good to have Cotswold. They've been doing scrutiny for a long time and doing it incredibly well. So I'm so pleased to have with us from Cotswold, Vanda, and I think Alex as well. So welcome to you both. Good morning. I hope you're all well. Who's going first? Who will we be handing over to?
We hadn't decided that actually. So.
Put you on the spot.
Alex has got a PowerPoint, so maybe if Alex could bring that up first.
Yeah, so I'll let Alex share a screen and then can get going.
Sorry, I've just managed to get in. Hang on a second.
No worries, no worries.
Right, am I on sharing now?
Not quite, no. We've not seemed to have got your camera on at the moment, Alex, so I don't know.
Yeah, hang on a sec. It's
pop that on.
So when Alex brings up the PowerPoint, can I speak through some of it, Louise? Or
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
You can do whatever you want, Vanda. Yeah, the time is yours to decide how you want to do it. No worries.
Are you happy with that, Alex?
Yeah, just trying to get my camera to play today. Right. Hopefully I'm in.
Yes, we've got a lovely picture of somewhere. I should know where it is.
Oh, I know what it is. There you go.
Yay, we've got you. Brilliant, okay. Alex. Welcome.
So, I'm just trying to think how I actually get my screen on here. Where's the share thing? I can't see it.
If you're on a laptop, should be at the bottom with a green arrow sort of pointing upwards.
Yeah, we're there. Yeah. Right. Okay. So here we go.
Can I first just mention a slight apology if it happens? I'm waiting. Our eldest daughter is just about to have a baby, so I do have my phone on. If it goes off, I apologise.
Not a problem. I'm sure we will all forgive you, and fingers crossed, yeah, for some fantastic news. Yeah, no problems, Vanda. So Alex, okay. Yes, I got your presentation. I don't know if you can sort of make it a little bit bigger, maybe go from the slideshow from current slide, perhaps.
How are you seeing that now?
Yeah, we've got it on screen. It's just the we can see the top bit rather than the full sort of slide. So
okay, I'm just trying to see what I can.
If you go down to the bottom next to where the 62% is and just move across, you'll see like a little screen on legs. You can press that, and that should fetch the full screen up.
Sorry about this. Not had to do this.
That's all right. Don't worry.
Right. Hang on a minute. I need to get back into.
In fact, don't worry, we can still see it whether you've got it on full screen or not, so don't worry too much, just you crack on. Okay. We can definitely see it. Okay.
Yeah, I can't actually get the menu up at the moment, so it's not showing.
Yeah.
Shall I start to talk about what it was we did, Alex, while you do that?
Yeah, you can carry on. Yeah.
Okay, so our scrutiny was on the ASB in Cotswold. The reason that we chose that to do was because the customer insight group, which we are part of, we meet up each month with heads of service, and it was identified that there were very low levels of satisfaction for the ASB service. So we decided that was obviously a good thing to look at. At the moment, there's only 3 of us. We're a very small group, and always hopeful as a lot of us, I'm sure, to get new members. But we started, so we interviewed 8 customers who had made complaints between 2019 and 2020, asking the same list of questions and compared their responses. And we did this obviously by phone and internet, because of how we've all had to work over the last couple of years. We worked in partnership with Cotswold staff members, including the assurance officer, who carried out an internal audit review. And we held interviews with the Cotswold's neighbourhood housing manager and neighbourhood housing officer and ASB lead, asking them questions on how, you know, from reporting to the policies, procedures, all those things. We felt that customer services being the first point of contact, we felt that was really important to talk to them and find out what training was given, and how they dealt with it, and what happened as it went through. Did they hear back and things? So we felt that would be beneficial. And we were able to interview one of their customer service advisors, who was really, really helpful. She talked through her role. And Alex, would you like to add to any of this?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, folks, for the kind of issues about looking at this. I think what I was going to say, it was at the start of our presentation, was partly why we went into this. I'm just going back to this here, if it will come up on here.
What's really useful, sorry Alex, if I just, where this comes from is what I was saying about the CIG, the Customer Insight Group that we're part of. Each month when we meet, we're able to see the feedback and everything that all the staff in Cotswold say, and it's really, really useful, and we're able to ask questions and look at all the areas that they're looking at as well. So we really are able to see all of it. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, there was 2 years of low performance in terms of satisfaction through our surveys. We survey every closed case that we can, and you know the figures were disappointing, to say the least. Plus, when we looked at the performance on Housemark, we were in the lower quartile for satisfaction, but we were actually in the upper quartile for the number of complaints of ASB. And we'd had 7 complaints in that year that we looked at the figures, which was the 2019-20. And we upheld one of those ourselves, and one was upheld by the Ombudsman. So we felt it was, you know, well time for us to look at that. And through the CIG group that Vanda's mentioned, you know, that doesn't just look obviously at ASB, it looks across all services. So it's a very open and sort of transparent way of explaining to the customers what's going on, and we report on our feedback via our website every quarter. So all that stuff kind of comes through anyway. I'm not sure how we're doing for time, but obviously Vanda's talked you through about the things that were done. All of this is laid out in the report, and I've put the link for the report at the beginning of this presentation. So if this gets shared later, if anyone's interested, they can click on the link. It goes straight to our website and where the scrutiny report is. Okay. Vanda, shall we talk through the key outcomes? I don't know if you'd like to.
Yes, certainly.
Can you see that screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. No, you need to go down when I think scrutiny.
It's really difficult to see what you guys can see. What's the slide have you got up there?
Why review the ASB service?
Hang on a second. It's not. Yeah. See, what I'm seeing is key outcomes. I don't know what's happening with this.
In total, I think 20 recommendations were made, and each month during our CIG meetings, we can look and see what's been achieved, what they're working on, and there's been an awful lot done. So now the key outcomes. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, sorry, it's just taking a long time to refresh.
That's okay, that's perfect. So the key outcomes now. There's a review and update of the ASB policy and procedure. We have improved information on website and in sign-up packs. Introducing a vulnerability risk assessment for all complainants, which we all felt really strongly about, actually. I think it's very important. Promotion of the community trigger on Cotswold and local authority websites.
Yeah, that was one that wasn't actually, for some reason, our local authorities, most of them didn't actually have anything on the websites about the community trigger, which is available to all, all residents, not just our tenants, obviously. So that's now, we've been in contact with them, and that is now up and running.
So review cases, feedback and satisfaction each quarter to identify learning opportunities, and a comprehensive training programme for staff. And so whilst we check how these things are being carried out, we're also very lucky that we've invited the neighbourhood housing manager to one of our fortnightly meetings, which we have with two of Alex and Vicky, the community staff within Cotswold. They support us. So we meet with them every fortnight, and the housing officer, or housing manager rather, is going to come and talk with us, so we can choose just a few of the actions that we would like to go in depth a little bit about. So as well as knowing how it's all going along, if we want to go in a little bit deeper and just check and see that things are close to the right standard, we're also able to do that. And we really enjoyed it, I have to say. It's been a long time since we've, and especially because there's only 3 of us as well, it's been a long time since we've been able to sort of see things through to completion. And with the way with COVID and everything else, that's not made it easy. But yeah, we really enjoyed doing this, and it was nice to talk to residents. And I think a lot of them really appreciated it, actually, especially in these times. So yeah, we enjoyed it.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, again, really big thanks to yourselves for coming along and sharing that with us. And I really liked how you ended there, Vanda, by saying actually we enjoyed it. You know, it was good to do what we've done, and you know, can see the difference. We've got those outcomes. You know, really the antisocial behaviour services has improved as a result of it. So I think it's great to have that as a volunteer, isn't it? That satisfaction, yeah, and knowing that you've made a difference. So fantastic, and thanks to you both for coming along and sharing that with us today. And I'm glad, you know, to see that things are still as good as ever at Cotswold in terms of scrutiny. So big thank you to you both. Thanks ever so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, we'll just try and come out of the screen sharing, and we'll wrap things up for today in terms of this scrutiny showcase session. Yeah, slightly over time, so apologies if you have been following us on YouTube. You'll be ready for your lunch now, as I think we probably all are. But I just wanted to say a fantastic thank you to all those people who've joined us today. We've had tenants and residents, leaseholders, we've had members of staff all coming together to actually showcase the fantastic work of scrutiny. And in a nutshell, that's kind of what Scrutiny Week is all about. So we are back on our YouTube channel at 1 o'clock with a premiere of Jackie Weaver, our agony aunt, for 20-25 minutes. So I think that's definitely going to be worth tuning into. And then at 2 o'clock, we're back on our YouTube channel live with myself and Jenny, the CEO of TPAS, who is going to help me wrap up Scrutiny Week and also talk to you a little bit about the National Scrutiny Club that we will be launching. So thanks again for tuning in to our showcase. Look after yourselves, and we will hopefully see you again back here at 1 o'clock. Bye, everyone.